Howdy everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on Idylls of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I will be discussing both Victorian artwork and filmed adaptations starting this video as well. Shall we get started? Idylls of the King, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson, is a 12-book epic detailing the rise and eventual death of King Arthur in the Kingdom of Albion. Alfred Lord Tennyson was an amazing poet, holding the title of Poet Laureate from 1850 until his death in 1892. During his career, he became the leading expert and primary author on the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. The Lady of Shalott and Idylls of the King were not the only works he did in this legend, but they were his most heralded works. As in The Lady of Shalott, a single scene out of Idylls of the King was portrayed more often than any other. This scene revolved around King Arthur's death and his trip to Avalon. In the legend, Arthur technically never actually dies, but rather has to go to Avalon because a sliver of Excalibur is stuck inside him and cannot be healed by any mortal powers. As the legend goes, Arthur shall remain in Avalon until Albion's time of greatest need is upon us. The first painting I have for y'all is titled The Last Sleep of Arthur in Avalon by Edward Burne-Jones. This painting shows the scene of Arthur's final sleep in Avalon before returning to save the Kingdom of Albion. He is surrounded by his friends and family. The ornate background and exquisite idealistic details in the people are characteristic of the pre-Raphaelite movement started in 1881. Although this painting had already outlived the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, Burne-Jones and Dante Gabriel Rossetti, among others, kept the ideas and techniques alive through the arts and crafts movement. The second painting I have for y'all today is titled The Death of King Arthur by James Archer. Created in 1860, this painting was writing on the dying curtails of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. The breathtaking backdrop and the beautiful idealistic figures all carry remnants of this movement as the four women prepare Arthur for his journey to Avalon. Despite the depressing topic, the scene is light and hopeful perhaps of the second coming of King Arthur. The question we have to ask, though, is why? Why the legend of King Arthur? As Fiona McCarthy states in her article, Secure Me a Famous Wall, why were Victorians so gripped by the stories of King Arthur? The 19th century fixation with Arthurian ideals of chivalry and heroism had its origins in Alfred Tennyson's Morte d'Arthur, published in the first installment of Idylls of the King in 1842. Burne-Jones's Arthur in Avalon was the accumulation of a succession of contemporary writings and works of art based on the Arthurian legend in which the hero king was taken as an exemplar of how life could still be lived in the Victorian age. She goes on later stating, to the pre-Raphaelite artists and their followers, the Arthurian legend had a special resonance. It was partially the pictorial splendors they could find in it. Glinting armor, flashing swords, unfurling banners, attendant maidens in the gently flowing robes. Even more, however, it was the moral fervor. The mid-Victorian pre-Raphaelites hijacked the Arthurian as a part of their crusade against the crass and squalid materialistic age. I would argue that it is that same moral fervor that continues to make the Arthurian legend such an archetypal inspiration today. I could literally talk for days about all the different movies and television shows in the last 10 years that have been made either following the Arthurian legends or using the archetypal tropes of the legends, from anything to do with dragons to mystical kingdoms such as Lord of the Rings and the Chronicles of Narnia. Even chosen one narratives are relevant to this argument. Yes, Star Wars, I'm talking about you. However, we obviously don't have that kind of time, so I have chosen two television shows that have received critical acclaim and have a massive fan base behind them. One of my selections follows the Arthurian legends directly, while the other uses characteristics and tropes typically associated with the legends. Making its debut in September 2008, Merlin follows not only the adventures of King Arthur, but as the title suggests, the adventures of Merlin as well. Arguably the second most iconic and archetypal characters from the legends, the wizard Merlin is who we can thank for the typical picture of a wise old man with a long white beard. Merlin's legacy has touched fantasy and non-fantasy genres, including those that seem to have absolutely nothing to do with legends at all. In the television show, Merlin is portrayed as a warlock, literally a creature of magic, who is destined to look after and protect Arthur as he brings about the Kingdom of Albion. Over the course of 5 seasons, the show transports us into the kingdom of Camelot and depicts every possible legend or tale in the canon of King Arthur and his Knights of Camelot. 2 of the most notable episodes take their title straight from Idylls of the King. In the episodes The Coming of Arthur, Parts 1 and 2, Arthur establishes the Order of the Round Table, pulls Excalibur from the stone, defeats the bad guys, and becomes king. The show is kept as accurate to the time period as possible, but manages to hold a resemblance that allows audience members to connect with the characters and the themes. Arguably one of the most continuously anticipated and highly rated shows of the decade, Game of Thrones has captured audiences since its very first episode. Based off of the books written by George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones is a fantasy tale the likes of which hasn't been seen on television before. Produced by HBO, the show is not constricted by the traditional censorship most television networks must follow, as they are a premier network that requires extra funding from its viewers. This allows the show to delve into the most graphic parts of the world and story, and I don't just mean the excessively gory parts either. Although it doesn't follow any of the legends from the Arthurian canon directly, the show does contain many characteristics closely associated with legends. Set in a mythical kingdom with dragons and magic, the show is overflowing with the characteristics most sought out by the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, including the glinting armor, curving banners, and most definitely the women. A certain moral fervor can be found in many of the characters, but it is sometimes hard to see it through everything else. Thank you for watching this video. That's all I have for y'all today. The next video in the series will be over Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Until next time.